What if you reached every goal they gave you and still discovered that you built someone else's definition of a successful man? Good salary, respectable title, safe decisions, visible progress. But you cannot leave, you cannot refuse, you cannot change direction without losing everything. That is not failure. It is something more dangerous, successful dependence. Most men never consciously decide what success means. They inherit it from parents who wanted security, from friends who wanted social proof, from institutions that reward obedience, from social media that turns money, status, attention, and possessions into a public scoreboard. And because everyone around them recognizes that scoreboard, they assume it must be real. They assume it must be theirs. So a man spends years climbing. He gets the role. He earns more than he used to earn. He becomes more respectable than he used to be. People stop mocking him. Some begin to admire him. His family relaxes because his life now looks safer. His friends call him responsible. His industry gives him a title. His bank account gives him permission to breathe. Then, one day, he notices the quiet horror beneath the achievement. He became impressive, but not free. He learned how to earn, but not how to leave. He learned how to achieve, but not how to refuse. He built a life that looks powerful from the outside, while becoming more expensive to disobey from the inside. Machiavelli understood this distinction centuries ago. In chapter 15 of The Prince, he says he prefers the real truth of a matter over imaginary versions of how life ought to work. That sentence cuts directly into the modern idea of success. Society teaches success through symbols. Machiavelli would examine effects. Your title is a symbol. Your ability to walk away is an effect. Your salary is a symbol. Your financial reserves are an effect. People praising you is a symbol. People changing their behavior because your competence gives you alternatives, that is an effect. This is why the question is not whether your life looks successful. The question is what your success allows you to do under pressure. Can you say no? Can you leave? Can you survive rejection? Can you rebuild when fortune changes? Can one gatekeeper lose interest in you without your entire identity collapsing? There are 7 questions that expose whether your definition of success is creating power or merely decorating dependence. The final question is the most dangerous because it reveals whether everything you have built is increasing your freedom or increasing your fear. But before money, status, marriage, title, property, or public respect, the first question is colder. Question 1. Who gave you the scoreboard? Parents, friends, culture, your industry, Instagram, or the younger version of you who once believed being impressive would finally make him impossible to dismiss. There is nothing inherently weak about wanting money. There is nothing weak about wanting a house, a family, status, a strong career, or visible progress. A man who pretends none of those things matter is usually lying, coping, or hiding from his own hunger. The weakness begins when you pursue them without knowing why they earned authority over your life. A man can spend 20 years defeating opponents he never consciously chose. He becomes richer than his father because he once felt small in his father's house. He becomes more successful than his friends because he once felt ignored by them. He becomes more visible because he once felt invisible. He becomes obsessed with proving everyone wrong because he secretly still needs their judgment to become meaningful. And he calls this ambition, but psychologically, he may still be reacting. The people he claims not to care about are still writing the score. This is the hidden humiliation inside many successful men. They are not free from the crowd. They are still negotiating with the crowd, just from a better-looking position. They change the evidence, but not the dependency. They no longer beg for approval with words. They beg for it through lifestyle, career choices, spending habits, public image, and the constant need to be seen winning. Here is the first law. If you did not choose the scoreboard, winning it does not guarantee liberation. Before asking, "How do I become successful?" ask a more dangerous question. What result would still matter if nobody I wanted to impress ever found out? That question strips status theater away from actual desire. If your answer disappears the moment applause disappears, it was not your definition, it was a performance. If the goal only matters when an enemy sees it, that enemy still owns territory inside your mind. If the achievement only feels complete when someone regrets doubting you, your victory still depends on their emotional reaction. Self-determination. Theory gives this practical weight. Autonomy. The experience that your actions are genuinely self-endorsed rather than controlled from outside is one of the core psychological needs linked with healthier motivation and functioning. But autonomy is not isolation. Autonomy does not mean you reject society, money, marriage, career, or reputation. It means ownership of motive. A sovereign man can choose conventional success without being enslaved by it. A dependent man can rebel against conventional success and still be controlled by it because his rebellion is also a reaction. So do not ask whether the scoreboard is normal. Ask whether it is yours. Because choosing your scoreboard is meaningless if your success requires you to tolerate things you secretly despise. Question 2. What does your success require you to tolerate? Look beneath the achievement. Does your title require constant humiliation? Does your income require permanent availability? Does your lifestyle require staying in work you cannot psychologically survive? Does your reputation require pretending to believe things you do not believe? Does your social position require becoming smaller around the people who gave it to you? Every form of success has a maintenance cost. The strategic question is whether the cost is strengthening you or training you to obey. A high salary can become a weapon against you when your expenses rise until leaving becomes impossible. Prestige can become a cage when you fear looking unsuccessful more than you fear wasting your life. A respected position can become a leash when you accept disrespect because you cannot afford uncertainty. A relationship can become captivity when your identity depends on being chosen. A house can be security, or it can become a prison you decorate while your options disappear. Many men do not notice the moment success turns against them because the cage improves gradually. First, it gives comfort. Then it gives identity. Then it gives status. Then it gives obligations. Then it gives fear. By the time the man realizes he is trapped, everyone around him calls the trap maturity. This is why the salary became impressive only after it made disobedience unaffordable. This is why the title became dangerous only after the man became terrified to lose it. This is why the lifestyle became a cage only after the man confused maintaining appearances with protecting his future. Anything you cannot afford to lose can eventually negotiate against you. Do a power audit. Write down the 3 things you currently call success. Then, beside each one, write this sentence. What must I tolerate to keep this? Do not answer emotionally. Answer like a strategist. If the answer is hard work, pressure, responsibility, delayed gratification, or discipline sacrifice, that may be the price of strength. But if the answer is silence, humiliation, dependence, self-betrayal, permanent anxiety, or fear of starting again, then you are not just paying a cost, you are being trained. And this matters because the unsupported man cannot afford decorative success. He cannot afford to look powerful while remaining structurally weak. He cannot afford to spend his strongest years protecting a cage that other people admire. If you are the right viewer, stop false progress. You already know when a goal is making you smaller while pretending to make you greater. The real problem is not lack of ambition. The real problem is ambition without architecture. Inside Patreon, I break down the deeper systems behind proof, positioning, discipline, funnels, leverage, and self-command for men who are done performing progress and ready to build evidence. It is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who can handle being measured. The decision is yours. Now the next question is where dependence becomes measurable. Question 3. What happens if one gatekeeper says no? One employer, one client, one platform, one investor, one relationship, one person controlling access. If one decision can erase your income, distribution, identity, or future direction, you do not have a success problem. You have concentration risk. This is where unsupported men often make a costly mistake. They believe self-reliance means doing everything alone. It does not. Total isolation can become fragility disguised as strength. Real self-reliance means building enough capability and enough alternatives that no single relationship becomes absolute. One employer is dependence. Transferable skill creates options. One platform is dependence. Owned audience channels create options. One client is dependence. A pipeline creates options. One relationship is dependence when it becomes your only source of emotional identity. Self-command creates options. One title is dependence when you cannot create value outside the institution that gave it to you. Capability creates options. The question is not whether someone can reject you. Rejection is part of life. The question is whether rejection becomes a verdict or just information. Stop trying to become a man nobody can reject. That man does not exist. Become a man who can survive rejection without losing direction. This is the difference between being approved and being powerful. Approval depends on the gatekeeper continuing to say yes. Power begins when no stops meaning game over. Jeff Bezos learned this before Amazon existed. In 1994, Bezos already had the kind of life most people would call successful. He worked at D.E. Shaw, a prestigious investment firm in New York. Status, salary, intelligence, respectable path. The kind of career other people use to prove they made it. When Bezos told his boss he wanted to leave and build an online bookstore, his boss took him on a walk through Central Park. His boss told him the idea was good, but it would make more sense for someone who did not already have a good job. Listen carefully to the pressure hidden inside that sentence. You already won. Why risk your rank? Why abandon the respectable path? Why become a beginner again? Why trade visible status for uncertain proof? Most men would call that advice wise, and sometimes it would be. But Bezos used a different scoreboard. He imagined himself at age 80 and asked which decision would create more regret. He decided that not attempting to participate in the emerging internet would haunt him more than failure would. Pressure. Abandon a prestigious path. Action. Leave the status already earned and enter uncertainty. Proof. By 1997, Amazon reported roughly 1.5 million customers and $147.8 million in sales. The lesson is not that every man should quit his job. That is childish. The lesson is colder. Bezos did not reject success. He rejected a scoreboard that had become too small for the future he was willing to risk building. That is the distinction. Weak men rebel against structure because they hate discipline. Strategic men abandon structures only when those structures begin limiting the future they are capable of building. And now the question turns sharper. because alternatives mean nothing if your status rises while your actual ability remains still. Question 4. What are you actually becoming better at? Manager, director, founder, executive, creator, consultant. These words can describe responsibility. They can also hide stagnation. Strip your title away. What can you do today that you could not do 2 years ago? What problem can you solve faster? What result can you produce repeatedly? What scarce skill has become stronger? What difficult decision can you now make under pressure? This question humiliates men who are addicted to status because it removes the costume. It asks for capability, not label. It asks for output, not image. It asks what travels with you when the institution stops introducing you with respect. Machiavelli's idea of virtue was not about being harmless or morally decorative. It pointed toward effectiveness, judgment, adaptability, and the ability to act under changing conditions. A title cannot do that for you. A company can rent you authority, but it cannot give you portable power unless you convert the position into skill. Your position is rented. Your capability travels with you. A man who rises in title but not in ability becomes fragile. He becomes confident in rooms built by other people. He becomes proud of authority he does not own. He becomes dependent on systems that make him feel larger than his actual capacity. Then change arrives. A restructuring, a layoff, a younger competitor, a market shift, a platform decline. Suddenly the title is gone, and the man discovers he never built the muscle underneath it. Every 90 days, ask yourself 3 questions. What skill increased? What result improved? What became measurable? If the answer is only that your title changed, pay attention. Status without capability creates confidence without resilience. And confidence without resilience is not strength. It is exposure waiting for pressure. Because capability that remains invisible creates another problem. The world cannot reward evidence it cannot see. Question 5. What evidence have you built? Remove your explanations. Remove your plans. Remove your ambition. Remove what your friends say you could become. Remove your private belief that you are meant for more. What remains? Revenue, completed projects, a portfolio, a transformed body, customers, published work, measurable savings, a reputation attached to repeated outcomes, or mostly potential. This question hurts ambitious men because it attacks the private identity. The unsupported man often carries a silent conviction that he is more than his environment can see. Sometimes he is right. Sometimes his family cannot understand the road he is taking. Sometimes his friends judge him through the old version of him. Sometimes society does ignore men until their usefulness becomes impossible to deny. But sometimes the truth is colder. He is not underestimated yet. He is still unproven. Those are not the same thing. Being underestimated means the proof exists, but people are mispricing it. Being unproven means the proof has not been built yet. The ego wants to confuse these two because one protects pride and the other demands work. One allows you to blame blindness. The other forces you to produce evidence. One lets you say they do not see me. The other forces you to ask, what exactly have I built that they should see? Potential is an internal claim. Proof is an external fact. The world does not have access to your intentions. It does not see your private hunger. It does not feel the pressure in your chest when you lie awake, thinking about the man you should have become by now. It does not reward the version of you that exists only in your imagination. It reacts to artifacts, results, signals, reputation, performance, and repeated evidence. This is not fair. It is real. The world is not a therapist waiting to validate your hidden depth. The world is a marketplace of attention, incentives, risk, and proof. If your value is invisible, many people will treat it as non-existent. Not because they are evil, because invisible value carries no cost when ignored. That is the brutal freedom inside this truth. You do not need to beg people to believe in the future version of you. You need to build artifacts that make belief unnecessary. One project, one measurable improvement, one useful skill, one completed body of work, one result that can be inspected without your explanation. Then another, then another. Your pride should not come from imagining your ceiling. It should come from raising your floor. This is where many men lose years. They talk about the empire before they build the brick. They announce the transformation before they complete the first proof. They describe the vision because the vision gives them temporary emotional status. For a moment, they feel like the man they have not yet become. But words can become a drug. Plans can become a costume. Ambition can become a form of entertainment when it is not converted into measurable output. A man who wants respect must stop asking to be understood and start becoming legible through results. Do not explain your discipline. Show the body, the savings, the portfolio, the skill, the clients, the consistency, the record, the finished work. Do not ask them to believe. Build until disbelief becomes expensive. But even proof is not enough if the environment changes and your proof only works under perfect conditions. Question 6. Could your success survive change? Artificial intelligence changes your industry. Your company restructures. The economy contracts. Your platform changes its algorithm. Your strongest client disappears. A younger competitor learns faster. Your reputation takes a hit. Your relationship ends. Your health weakens. Your old strategy stops working. What survives? This is where Machiavelli becomes painfully modern. In The Prince, he writes that fortune may govern a large part of human affairs, but still leave some portion under human control. He compares fortune to a violent river. When the river floods, it destroys everything in its path. But when conditions are calm, men can build dams, banks, and defenses before the water rises. That is not mystical philosophy. That is risk management. You cannot control the flood. You can control whether you built the dam. Savings are a dam. Transferable skills are a dam. A strong reputation is a dam. Multiple clients are a dam. Owned assets are a dam. Health is a dam. A network of competent allies is a dam. A documented body of proof is a dam. Self-command is a dam. Most men judge success only when the weather is favorable. They ask how much they earn when the job is stable. They ask how much attention they get when the algorithm is kind. They ask how confident they feel when people approve. They ask how strong their relationship is when nobody is testing it. They ask how secure they are when the market is rising. But success is not truly revealed under favorable conditions. Its architecture is revealed when conditions change. A man is not financially strong because he earns well in a good month. He is financially strong when a bad month does not force humiliation. A man is not skilled because one institution rewards him. He is skilled when his ability travels beyond the institution. A creator is not powerful because one platform gives him reach. He is powerful when his audience, assets, and distribution do not depend on one algorithm's mercy. A professional is not secure because one employer likes him. He is secure when his capability has value beyond one employer's permission. Fortune does not ask whether you are ready before it tests your structure. And there is a second Machiavellian problem. What helped you win yesterday may become the thing that destroys you tomorrow. Discipline can become obsession. Caution can become cowardice. Confidence can become arrogance. Privacy can become invisibility. Loyalty can become dependence. Specialization can become fragility. Success can become identity. The man who worships his old strategy eventually becomes predictable. He continues fighting the last war because the last war made him feel powerful. He refuses to adapt because adaptation feels like admitting that the old version of him is no longer enough. That is how successful men decay without noticing. They do not fail because they were weak. They fail because they became rigid. Ask every 6 months, what helped me win that may now be making me fragile? What skill am I over-relying on? What source of income has too much power over me? What relationship has become too central to my identity? What platform, employer, client, or reputation signal am I treating as permanent? What would I do if the river rose tomorrow? This is not pessimism, this is sovereignty. Pessimism expects collapse and does nothing. Strategy respects uncertainty and builds defenses. A successful man does not pretend fortune cannot touch him. He prepares so that when fortune touches him, it does not own him. But even if your success survives change, there is still one final way it can become your master. Question 7. Does success increase your freedom or your fear? This is the final knife. You wanted money so nobody could control you. Now you fear losing the lifestyle. You wanted status so nobody could dismiss you. Now criticism terrifies you. You wanted a business so nobody could command your time. Now you cannot take 1 week away. You wanted possessions as evidence that you escaped weakness. Now maintaining those possessions dictates your decisions. You wanted respect so you would stop needing approval. Now public opinion controls your nervous system. You did not become free. You upgraded the quality of your cage. This is why the ultimate test of success is not how much you have. It is how much fear is required to keep it. If every achievement makes you more terrified of falling, your possessions are beginning to possess you. If every promotion makes you more silent, your title is negotiating against your spine. If every increase in status makes you more obedient to perception, your reputation has become a leash. If every financial upgrade forces you into more dependence, your income is not creating power. It is financing captivity. A successful life that increases dependence can become a sophisticated form of captivity. That is the verdict. Not because money is bad, not because status is meaningless, not because marriage is weakness, not because a career is a trap, not because property is fake. Money can create options, status can create access, marriage can create strength, a career can create capability, property can create security, recognition can strengthen reputation. The question is, what architecture they create around you. Do they increase your agency, or do they increase the number of conditions you are terrified to violate? Do they make you harder to control or more expensive to disobey? Do they expand your ability to choose, or do they turn every choice into a threat? That is the difference between success as power and success as decoration. Now, redefine success through 5 words. Capability, autonomy, proof, leverage, durability. Capability asks, can I create valuable results? Not can I appear serious, not can I speak intelligently, not can I imagine a better future. Can I produce something valuable repeatedly under real conditions? Autonomy asks, do I consciously choose the direction? Not am I reacting to people who doubted me. Not am I performing for people I claim to ignore. Not am I chasing a scoreboard because everyone recognizes it. Do I own the motive? Proof asks, can the results be demonstrated without explanation. Not do I have potential, not do I have private ambition, not do I feel misunderstood. What evidence exists when my words are removed? Leverage asks, do my skills, assets, reputation, and alternatives increase my ability to negotiate and refuse? Not do people like me, not do I have permission, not do I depend on one gatekeeper's approval. Can I survive no and keep moving? Durability asks, can what I built survive bad fortune and changing conditions? Not does it work when life is easy, not does it work when the market is friendly, not does it work when people approve. Can it stand when the river rises? Now, conventional success has a place. Salary matters when it builds reserves. Status matters when it expands opportunity. A house matters when it creates security without destroying mobility. Recognition matters when it strengthens reputation without becoming emotional oxygen. A career matters when it increases capability instead of merely renting identity. Marriage matters when it creates strength instead of fear. The question is no longer, does this make me look successful? The question becomes, does this strengthen my position? That is the colder definition. That is the cleaner definition. That is the definition that separates the man who wants admiration from the man who wants command over his own life. You were taught to become impressive, become difficult to control. You were taught to collect approval, collect evidence. You were taught to protect status, protect capability. You were taught to fear starting again. Become the man whose skills can rebuild. You were taught that success means finally proving everyone wrong. No, if you still need their defeat to validate your victory, they still occupy territory inside your mind. The unsupported man does not need to spend his life punishing people for failing to believe in him. That is still dependence. That is still emotional obedience. That is still living as if their recognition is the final court of appeal. He needs to become independent of belief. Unsupported becomes unowned. Potential becomes proof. Invisible becomes measurable. Reactive becomes controlled. Effort becomes leverage. Dependent becomes sovereign. This is the identity shift. You are not building so they can finally clap. You are building so applause becomes irrelevant to your motion. You are not working so the people who doubted you can suffer. You are working so their doubt loses jurisdiction. You are not pursuing success to decorate the wound. You are pursuing power so the wound no longer governs your decisions. Rewrite your definition of success in one sentence. Do it today, not someday when life feels cleaner. Then examine every word. If it requires applause, remove it. If it requires envy, remove it. If it requires somebody who rejected you to regret their decision, remove it. If it requires one employer, one platform, one relationship, one client, one title, or one institution to keep saying yes, question it. What remains should tell you what you can build, become, control, preserve, and choose. Because the weak definition of success is having more. The Machiavellian definition is needing permission from fewer. Build the capability, build the proof, build the alternatives, build the reserves, build the reputation, build the body that can carry pressure, build the skill that travels, build the structure that survives fortune. And when the scoreboard they gave you starts asking for your obedience, remember this. A man has not truly succeeded because he is admired. He has succeeded when his life no longer requires permission from people who never had the courage to choose their own.